Okay. Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to our next conversations. This is not with a doc, but it is a conversation with a professional, Judith Sachs, and she goes by Judith, not Judy. The only person who ever called me Judith was my mother when she was angry, so I don't do that. But Judith is Judith. And she has a good long history of doing dancing with PD, dancing for PD, and she danced with Alvin Ailey. And now she's doing this really terrific program called Close Contact for Couples with Parkinson's. It is not a sex thing, in case anybody was wondering from the title. But I'm going to turn it over to her now, and she's going to explain to you exactly what it is. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Remember, at the end of it, we're going to remind you that we're going to send out evaluations, and please fill those out and send them back to us. Thank you. Okay, Judith, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you to MAPS for having me here. I happen to be in Philadelphia, not too far away from your home city. And always thrilled at what amazing resources the Parkinson's community has. And I'm happy to be part of it. So, as Judy was telling you, my background was as a dancer and actor 100 years ago. And I was really interested in medicine, but because many women of my generation did not become doctors, I ended up writing books with doctors and later on working in pharmaceutical marketing, translating for doctors into American English so that patients and care partners could understand what they were being told they were supposed to do. And one of my last assignments was a new test. This was probably 15 years ago, called the DAT scan, to distinguish essential tremor from Parkinson disease. And we were looking for a picture for the website, and I found 50 people with Parkinson's doing the Jets and the Sharks from West Side Story. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I was made for. And I called to get the picture credit from the Mark Morris Dance Company, found out that there was a program called Dance for Parkinson's. I was lucky enough that they were training new teachers in Philadelphia the next weekend, and whole new career for me. So as I was teaching dance, many couples came to this program. Usually one person had Parkinson's, the other was the care partner. I have actually had several married couples where both people had Parkinson's disease, which is an interesting phenomenon. But typically in the medical establishment, patients are kept on one side and given all of their instruction and direction and medication and lifestyle change. And the care partner is there to kind of ride herd on the husband or wife. And I thought, that's not the way marriage works. And so I invented this program, which is now in its 6th year. Initially, we were live in a room, maybe 7 couples. Then COVID happened and we went on Zoom. And as you will see from some of the footage, it's really interesting to be in your own home, in your bedroom, in your bathroom. It's not a dance program. And it's not, although it's called Close Contact for Couples, it's not about sex, but it is about intimacy. So now I'm going to do a little slideshow. And I am going to give you the right slides and the right view in just a minute. Of course, one sec. There we go. Okay. So I am very fortunate to be a grantee first of Penn Medicine and then the Parkinson Foundation. And this year, your very own Johns Hopkins. And that's why we are all here tonight. I would never have met Judy and found out about MAPS if it hadn't been for my new grant. So I'm very happy to be affiliated with the Baltimore crew. So as I said, I started teaching dance for PD in 2012, and it seemed like a really wonderful way, combining music and movement, and everybody really looked happy in class. And I thought, wow, this is really going to make that coupled relationship better. And yet I found out that was not the case. So why, if you've been married to somebody for 30 or 40, and I've had people married for 59 years, why are people coming apart at the seams? Well, I don't think I have to read you this list, but you know that with this disease, there are motor symptoms, there are non-motor symptoms, there are the medication timings, there are medication dosage problems, there are cognitive issues, and there are certainly other physical changes. As one neurologist put it, if you are treating somebody with Parkinson's disease, you are treating the entire body and mind of that person. And it's so unpredictable, you don't know when another symptom is going to come into the picture. And so naturally, if you're living with somebody who is going through these changes that you have no idea from day to day what may be the case, it becomes really very difficult to keep that bond going. And then there is the aspect of pain. Now, not everybody with Parkinson's disease has pain, but there are so many different reasons and so many different types of pain in different parts of the body. And it's not always easy, again, to have somebody with you who's not experiencing the same thing you are, but who knows you so well, who's lived with you so long, and you don't want to bother them all the time. You want them to kind of read your mind. Well, as we know from other parts of your marriage, that's probably not the case. So I love this picture of this couple. As I always say, it's really interesting to me to see that people are treated in two camps, right? In the medical establishment, they're treated separately. Each new experience the couple has when they come in to see their provider, whether it's the neurologist, the movement disorder specialist, the nurse, the physical therapist, the speech therapist, they're all kind of separated out. And sometimes then the care partner is given a list, go home, make sure he does these 3 times a day, 10 times each. But it's more significant to me about the couple. So first of all, there's the mind reading business. That doesn't happen. Then there's the rest of the family. I have many, many couples where, especially newly diagnosed or young onset, who just don't want to say at work or even to their children or even to their cousins, don't want to say, I have this disease. So the cover up means that the couple is actually keeping this secret. And that becomes a very difficult thing for the two of them to do. Both of them are aging, right? Both of you are aging. I know I am. And it doesn't happen at the same time. So these changes that go on within us and possibly other comorbid conditions. I've had many couples where one person has PD and the other suddenly presents with a heart attack or with breast cancer. I had a couple where the gentleman was really doing very, very well with the Parkinson's and suddenly had a stroke. So everything is turned upside down for the person with this situation and the partner. So before we can get to intimacy, I have a program that takes us along this route. And the first thing is communication. Communication happens in a variety of ways. I feel that it is like a tug of war at certain times with Parkinson as the rope. And what we want to do is get both people on both sides as opposed to pulling apart. And in their attempts to communicate with one another, we don't want them falling into this kind of frustrated battle of who's on first. So that's part of what this program is all about. We want people to listen to one another. We want them to look each other in the eye. We want them to learn a new kind of touch that does not have to do with yanking and pulling. So partners are invaluable, but I want to make it clear that it's not always one person helping the other, right? We both have to, as I'm sure that you have in the decades of your marriage, assuming that I'm talking to people who are coupled here, one person helps the other to the best of their ability. May not be able to be physically mobile and mow the lawn tomorrow, but perhaps there are other things you can do that will help your partner. So we have to be asking each other questions, giving each other honest answers, and constantly listening. We're trying to get away from that stress response, which is fight, flight, or freeze. So after we learn how to do this communication thing, and it's a slow process, a lot of ups and downs, the next thing is all about touch. Now, I come from a dance background where people just touch each other all over the place because you're interested in moving your partner around or having your partner move you around. And so it's taken for granted that we will get into, where do you place your hand? Where do you touch? With how much weight do you put on your partner's face? These are all the things that we do in this program, and teaching non-dancers how to work like choreographers or dancers is a really exciting way to start touching your partner differently. So the first thing we think about is holding hands. And maybe that's the first thing you did before you ever thought of getting to be a couple. It has warmth, it has familiarity, it has the sensation of what is your skin like today? Is it humid out? Does it feel wet and soggy? Is it really cold? Are your fingers absolutely numb and blue? So many people with PD and their care partners say that this disease really robs them of their identity. And what we're trying to do is build this little structure where the two of them can approach each other slowly and deliberately and figure out new ways to have both physical and emotional closeness with one another. It also will allow us to feel a lot more confidence, not just in ourselves, but in the relationship. So here's the kinds of touching that go on here. Hand-holding. Hand-holding is fabulous. One of the things, I think you're able to see my screen and me. Is that true? Great, okay. So one of the things we think about is hands are really, they have a lot of territory, right? There are fingers, there are fingernails, there's the palm, there are the backs of the hands. So one of the things we start to do in our first session is really explore how do we touch each other? Is one person touching this partner A, touching partner B? Or are both of them touching one another? And we're trying to get into this synchrony where, without actually verbalizing it, they learn when to come together and when to go apart. And that, again, is taking us away from the very typical tugging, pulling, yanking that goes on when one person isn't moving in a particularly flowing manner. I want you to take a look at these two sets of dancers. Although the program has no dancing, honest, I changed the name of my program from Anyone Can Dance to anyone can move so that there would be no question in anyone's mind. The couple on the left, these old-fashioned people, you can see all their limbs. If she didn't have a long skirt on, you would see very distinctly 4 separate legs. You can see, mostly you can see their 4 hands. In the couple on the right doing the tango, of course, it's a silhouette, but you can't tell where one person stops and the other starts. And that's my feeling about the emotional contingency of this program, that we want people to just meld with one another, not all the time. You need your alone time. But when you want to be together, when you want to help your partner out of a chair or a bed, or out of the shower when they're slippery and wet, you want to feel like one being. You want to really understand what the other person's body is in context with your own body. This is a picture of a practice that I did in the 1970s called contact improvisation. We don't do any of that, believe me. But what I want to show you here is these partners are making a triangle with the weight of their body. So you can see that because of the angle of where they are, their 2 heads come together in what we call a center of gravity. And what I try and teach people is a little basic physics. We want to know where our base of support is. So if you look at their feet, you can see that their base of support is nice and wide, and the base of support they're making between the 2 of them is wide. And it gets narrower as we go to the top. The middle of their bodies is joined as one holds the other. And there's an enormous amount of trust here, because if either of them let go or change their position, they'd be on the floor. So in our own very, very simple way, not this dramatic exercise here, but in our own simple way, we learn where our center of gravity is and how to share it with a partner. So a little more specifics about this program. This is my mission, because the body was made to move. It gives us so much comfort and joy. And that's why the goal is partnership in the lifelong goal of supporting one another. So these are some pictures from our very first time when we were live in a room. And what we can do here is, as you see, we're practicing how we can touch one another in a variety of different ways. I did have some people in wheelchairs who did not get up from the seated posture. That's perfectly fine. We adapt absolutely everything. The couple on the right, as you see, they're kind of playing with giving weight to one another through their palms and their fingertips, just seeing who's the leader, who's the follower, which way are they going. Maybe neither one of them is a leader or a follower. The couple on the left is practicing something that most of us have to deal with every day. The squishy mat underneath them represents all the different places that you may have to go. Getting out of your car, maybe there's grass, and then there's concrete, right, in your driveway. One of you may be on a squishy surface, especially after the rain, one of you on a flat surface. So we practiced here in this room using the mat. One person was on, one was off. They had to make their corners and help one another around that circuit. Then we had both of them on the squishy surface. That was always fun. And now what we're doing is asking people to come to class. I asked them to bring a few blankets or towels, and we kind of mimic the same thing. We don't always get to see what's in our partner's face when we're trying to align our movement with them. So we do things where we can't look at each other, and we simply let one person be leader and the other follower. And I think if you look at the picture on the left, you can see that, especially in the couple who's closest to the divider, you see that their right legs are both moving at the same time, and their left leg will then follow. So what we try and do is kind of become entrained, as we say, very much like the way a train goes, right? But entrainment is another concept from physics that we use. The idea that when you see people doing tandem biking or tandem kayaking, the person in front initiates movement and the person behind follows. And that's entrainment. And that's what we do. Again, you can do it in your own home. If you feel your balance is unsteady, one person can hold on to the side of a wall as the two of you move together the way these couples are. And the other thing we want to restore is laughter. So this is a very serious disease. And I noticed again in the dance classes that I was teaching that people who had come in initially having a wonderful time listening to the music suddenly were really rather quiet with one another. Nothing much was going on between them. And they were just trying to follow instructions. And that's another reason I wanted to get away from that classroom structure. So here, what we do is we blow up balloons. That's another challenge, by the way. Blow up balloons and play with them. So in this particular exercise, the idea is you can't use your hands to touch the balloon. You must use your bodies, and your bodies have to be in sync. So you can talk to one another, like the woman in the middle is saying, okay, I'm going to turn around and give you my back and see if you can use your elbow to take the ball in a different direction. I've had couples who get the ball all the way down in between their knees and they start walking together in tandem across the room. They drop the ball, they burst out laughing, and then they have to go get it. I know that if my couples are laughing, I've done my work. I'd like to play this clip. So one of the big parts of this program is getting your partner out of a chair or assisting them when they want to get out of a chair. You don't say, I'm getting you out of a chair, care partner. The person with Parkinson says, I'm ready. I'm going to count to 3, and then you're going to hug me. This is, you'll see this in the film. And then we're going to rock together. We're going to use momentum to get out of the chair. And when I'm ready, I will say, and 1, and 2, and 3. Now, I want you to be watching the couple on the lower left because they weren't sure they could master this. You will switch. I don't know if Herb and Ina, if you want to switch. Because we may have to just figure something else out for you guys, which is absolutely fine.
We watched the video. We were wondering how we could do that.
All right. So actually what I would like to know from you is, do you ever give him support when he's getting up out of the rollator?
Yes.
Okay, then I want to see that. But first, let me just deal with everyone else for a second, okay? And then I'll get back to you. So the seated person, I'm now the seated person. I'm going to perch on the front of the chair, and my legs are just enough apart so that my partner's leg can come in here. And I'm going to reach up, and with my open palms, which we practiced earlier, my open palms, I'm going to hug him when he comes toward me. Now I'm the other person. Here's my partner in the chair. I want to feel like I'm going to move a refrigerator, right? I need my back leg supporting me that way. And I'm going to come under the armpits of my partner and put my open hands on his or her back. And then the person in the chair, and this is the important part. Yeah. The person in the chair gets to say 1 and 2, and I'm ready to get up 3, or ready, set, not ready yet, go. So we're doing rock and 2 and counting and 3. If you're not ready to get up on 3, person in the chair, you say, not yet. Okay? So get in the position.
Your hands are going to go towards mine.
Oh, you
Go,
have to get-
yes, John, go underneath. Yep. And then you really want to, so Mindy, so that your face isn't all smushed into his shoulder, turn
Right.
your head a little to the side. Yeah, Fern, that looks good.
You tell me.
Let him tell you. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, and now what I could not see,
Oh,
nice. Wow, Herb and Ina,
you did
you
good.
didn't think you could do that.
No, we didn't.
Wow. What do you think? Was he counting? I couldn't hear.
Hey, what? I usually help him by holding him from behind, grabbing one
Well, we're gonna do that next.
like this and pull him up like that.
Right. So let me say a word about this particular move, okay?
Well,
So the
your legs still have strength, you can do it.
difficulty with the smaller person being the helper in this way is if my partner rocks so far that I have to take his weight, right? And that's why this leg is like a kickstand. So that first I want to be toward him as we rock and he starts coming up. I want to go away and then come back. And then once you're up, the 2 of you just stay up together. Because you've been in motion and I want the stability to come back to the center.
He felt much lighter when I picked him up this way than, because when I pick him up from one arm, I hurt my back all the time.
That's what this class is all about.
I'm not really.
And I have to say, some people, and again, it sort of depends on the size of the partners. Some people like the other way better because they feel too smushed in. But it looks like it works beautifully for you. So do you guys, and I don't know how you feel about this, Fern and Steve, want to switch roles?
I'd like to practice this. first.
Yes,
Okay.
let's practice some more. How about Mindy and John? Do you want to
Gonna switch.
you switch? And Judd and Nancy, can you switch?
We
you
already
did.
but we'll do it again.
I'm my own way.
So that's the weird part, because now you see how I felt.
Wonderful. Wow.
Where
Oh,
did
gosh, it doesn't even hurt. He feels so light.
Can you write that down on a big piece of paper and mail it to the Parkinson? You will switch. I-
So I also want to tell you that they switched sides for Herb and Ina, and he got her out of the chair. And the look on his face, because he was in charge, he had agency, he was the one who thought he needed a lot of help, and he was able to help her. So many things that may seem out of your reach right now may not be. You just have to tweak various different things. And this business of the word cueing, I'm sure you've heard from your physical therapist, many different types of cueing. You and your partner will begin to develop a vocabulary together so that you will be understanding when the other person needs one thing or another. This is my intern. I just want to show you a little bit of, this is an activity for freezing of gait.
Now we're going to move on to the box on the floor. So you don't need a box of your own in your house. I just want you to have the feeling that the wide part is at the back, the narrow part is at the front. So the pattern now we're going to do, first I'm going to do it alone and then with the tongue. Start, and I'm really going to know that I'm on my feet on this, so that this leg is light and it's able to move dynamically Just tap. Lean on this leg again. Stand over here. Tap. And then I reach behind myself. And I tap. Side. Side. Now, is we're going to do this together, and I'm going to guide her by using the side of my body against her body. So she really feels if I'm switching weight, I'm going to almost take her, I'm not going to take her off her feet, but I'm going to make her feel this is going to be like this, is like that. And just because we don't have a lot of space here, she's going to be a tiny bit in front of me. So I'm going to take all my weight back. I'm going to go to the diagonal. So she will tap, diagonal back, front, side, diagonal back. Wonderful. So now we're relying on each other. Now we're going to mirror each other. So by doing that is I'm going to start on one foot and she is going to start as though she were looking in a mirror. So if I'm on the right foot, she'll be on the left. Vice versa. Both going to do the same thing. So I'm shifting weight. So I know this foot is ready to go. And 5, 6, 7, 8 diagonal. Diagonal. Side, step side, back, step side. That's it. Front and side. So we're together. Back and side. Do it again. Front, side, tap. One more front and side. Back and side. Now we make it harder. So we're going to start with the same foot. If I start on the right foot, she's starting. But look what happens to our feet as we make it. So I'm going this way with my right foot, and she's going away from me with her right foot together. So, back. And so, doing the same pattern, just with a different foot. So you can concentrate on your movement and fingers at exactly the same time, even though you're doing different.
So as I said, everybody is in their own home, and we talk about rolling in the bed, getting out of the bed. It's been really interesting for the couples to see one another's setup in bedroom and bathroom. Some of them have railings on the side of the bed. Some of them have bathrooms with no lip into the shower, with shower seats, lots of grab bars. And this will just give you an idea of what we do with, oh, I'm sorry, that was the picture. But this one will show you a little bit of walking down a corridor with your partner.
Our tennis ball, right? And we're going to be walking, obviously not holding hands. And one person will throw, and as you continue walking, so try not to stop, no matter where the ball was. Just keep going. About right. So here's how it looks. I think. Oh no, we can. So one facing. We show this. Okay. Very narrow hallway. So if you're in a narrow hallway, you may actually have to creep this way. I wanted us to be side by side, but we really don't have room to do that. So I'll be a little in front. Okay. Keep walking, 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 walking.
That'll be fun.
So I was angled a little toward her. If you have more room, spread out a little bit. Yeah, Barry and Mary Neal, you're in the same kind of situation we are. So Here's what you guys can do. You're gonna step wide, step together, step wide, step
We're
together.
going straight, because we have room.
So it's like a crab walk, sideways. Side together,
Okay.
side together. Other people can face that.
I know.
And try and keep your steps the same size.
Yeah, catch up with me. Come on, dude. Big step. Big step.
Oh, wow.
Let's start here.
Terry and Danielle, that looks so easy.
Ready?
Okay.
Nice, sit and Susan.
Almost.
So where we go from here actually is to progress to walking and talking, so dual tasking, throwing the ball and then reciting every other letter of the alphabet, or all the cousins on your husband's side of the family, so that you have to be thinking, walking, moving, and catching at the same time. So falling down. Falling is a very big deal. Partners are very nervous about handling it and nervous about helping their partner up. As you saw from that couple, the discussion was, I'm going to hurt my back if I do this. And so many of the techniques that I teach in this course have to do with protecting the care partner and making the person with Parkinson's aware of how they can help even if they have fallen, as long as they haven't hit their head and they are able to talk. One of the things that I teach is how to roll. So here's the rolling lesson on the floor, but many people don't like the idea of getting onto the floor. So we flip the idea of the room. And you see what these couples are doing is they're pretending that the wall is the floor. And so they're helping one another. The partner would come and move the shoulder of the person flat against the wall. They would start walking around and they would complete that turning over on their stomach, turning over on their back. And then we take it into the bedroom. Well, we didn't with these people because they were in the room, in the hospital. But in bedrooms, that's what we do. We start on the wall and we go to the bed and we go to the floor if people are willing to do that. Here's the couple from that other sequence, just talking about being in the program.
Well, just a little bit of background too, because this year, you know, right before the program, there was some challenges for us because Terry had a fall and he broke his shoulder. So there was need for me to help with moving him, either from a sitting position to a standing position or in bed. So when I read through what you were going to do with couples and touching and kind of communicating, I thought it would be something that we could learn to do together, because we were definitely having some challenging moments in trying to do that. And it affected my physical well-being as well, because my back kept bothering me when I was trying to help him out of a seat. So I just thought for both of us, this could be a good thing. That's what I was really hoping to get out of it, is some just some ideas of how to move together.
And interestingly enough, we were in the process of taking PT physical therapy for me. And we were actually working on how to help somebody out, how to, you know, just assist. So we're tied right in.
So I don't know this couple down here on the lower right, but they embody exactly what I want to happen in this program. People who have spent so many years building a wonderful relationship that is now compromised by this disease can actually learn new methods and have beginner's mind about their marriage and their communication skills and the way that they touch one another. So I'm hoping all of you out there, I am currently working with a group from Johns Hopkins, and I'm recruiting for my next group, which will probably start in late May or early June. And I think you can contact me directly right here at my website, anyonecanmove.com, or through Maps. And you can certainly ask Judy if she can get me in touch with you. And I'm going to stop my share. And I would love to take questions, comments, anything you got.
Okay, I have some questions that people submitted earlier. One is, how do I what's the best way to deal with declining cognitive capacity in the most helpful and productive way?
So interesting. When I started doing this program, you know, I am not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a physical therapist. I am a teaching artist. It's what I tell the IRS. I did not know if I would be able to work with people with Lewy bodies or any other Parkinsonian cognitive problem. And when I tried it, it was quite amazing. It was really because the sense of touch may be more influential in terms of dealing with your partner who's having cognitive loss than trying to say, well, she said, move your right hand. Why aren't you moving your right hand? Because maybe that's not happening right now. But holding hands, that's one way to do it. Touching that person in a loving way, that's one thing to do. And I mean, the other thing I have to say for the care partner is you need to take time for yourself. And so you need a team. I don't just mean your medical team, but you need some respite, whether it's a neighbor to walk the dog or somebody to be with your partner while you go to the movies or have your nails done. That's absolutely essential.
Here's another one.
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
but the sense of touch is really very influential in terms of bringing that person back to the awareness of the two of you together.
Okay. Another one is, what's the best way to deal with sundowner syndrome?
So sundowner, I guess all of you are aware, it's this business of getting either frantic or panicky or needing to be very, very active as we're going from daylight to darkness. So of course, one of the things I think that is suggested, and again, this is not my area of expertise, is to distract the person, do something else, play some music, any kind of very simple games. Maybe you have your meal at that time, if that's good for the two of you. I think the other thing is the adjustment of light within your space. And I think there are all kinds of gadgets now, probably that you can get on Amazon. But this would definitely be a question for your occupational therapist. I'm currently doing a program where I'm having experts come in to give the specific information that they need for those things. And the OT is the person who would be telling you how to make changes in your lighting that would be most beneficial for sundowning syndrome.
How is the sense of touch affected by Parkinson's?
You know, if you've seen one person with Parkinson's, people who have neuropathy, and I again have worked with a variety of people, it's very difficult for them to be touching the floor. And I ask people, if it's not painful, to try and take off the big shoes and use grippy socks. If barefoot is good, is all right, you try a little bit of that. But to get around the sense of that touch is, you want to dip in very, very gradually. So again, you're just going to try it for a little bit of time, go away from it and come back to it. In terms of how it feels to somebody with Parkinson's when you touch them, I would ask, how does this feel when I really firmly hold your shoulder? How does this feel when I just skim my hand on your shoulder? How does this feel? Do you remember how I always used to stroke your face or your hair? I think, again, the approach should be really slow and deliberate, and always verbalizing first what you are about to do before you do it. You don't want to spring anything on them.
Does DBS help with a sense of touch?
I don't know the answer to that. I really do not know the answer to that. And I think that would be a really interesting question for one of the experts that you've had on DBS.
Okay. Let's see, what does this say? Are the effects, or maybe what are the effects of touch on chronic pain in PD? And is it the same kind of benefit as massage therapy?
Wonderful question. I can answer it.
Which is
It's a wonderful question.
I did my research.
Yes, and I actually have a research study that I quote very often about the potential for alleviating pain through either massage or intimate touch. That again, it's something that has to be practiced and gone, very, very slowly. Both people have to agree to it. Typically much better to be doing it on skin and just starting, regardless of where the pain is, whether it's, body pain, stomach pain, foot pain, starting on a part of the body where there is no pain. So you'll probably know this if you go to a really good doctor and you're having appendicitis, they won't start feeling your right side. They will start on the left and say, how does that feel? Is that okay? Then they'll go up a little. Is that okay? And then they go to the area of pain. So same thing here with general touch. You want to start very lightly. I teach a sequence when I call 5-part touch, where first you're kind of hovering over the person's body, so you feel the heat of their body, and they can feel your heat. Then we do clothing. What does it feel like? Like a butterfly just landed on your clothing. And then through the clothing or on skin, how does it feel just to touch, not grip, but just to almost lay your hand there. Then under the skin is the muscle. So you're going to have to, you can actually see how I'm touching muscle. And from there, bone. So that's really serious grip. And then you go backwards to the muscle, to the skin, to the clothing, and to the heat shield. And we practice that a whole lot before we would think about using this for pain management. But yes, it is similar to massage, but unless your partner is a massage therapist, when you go get a massage, it's a stranger, or it's that person that you go to on a regular basis because they're a professional. What we're doing here is reconnecting the sense of touch between people who love each other.
And my last question is, at least the last so far, is altered physical sensation a problem in PD? And then like, what about restless leg syndrome? Is that more common in people with PD?
Yes and yes. So the business of altered, about altered smell, altered taste, the sense, all our senses are controlled by the dopamine in the brain. And so obviously the sense of touch, like smelling, visual, I know a lot of people who, it would have been a routine cataract procedure, but because they had Parkinson's, it was so much more complicated. And the vision afterward was so much more complicated to adjust. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, there is an altered sense of touch. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, how can I say this, flatter or less enjoyable or less. I mean, there are people with profound, Christopher Reeve, you may recall, Superman, who was in a terrible horseback riding accident and broke his back and was paralyzed. His entire spine just, it didn't work. And I remembered seeing a sequence with, it was a physical therapist who dealt with intimacy between couples when there was no sensation. And they figured out, this was years ago, but I remember that he had sensation in his earlobe, a lot of sensation. And so his wife just learned to really be very sweet and loving with him by touching ears. And it may seem like a very small thing to you guys, you know, especially if you've had an actual sexual relationship with someone. But for the two of them, this was the initiation of a whole new part of their relationship. So I would say, yes, sense of touch could be altered, but it doesn't mean it's going to be worse. Give it a whirl. As for restless leg, similar to the question about would massage help this? Does magnesium help this? Does, you know, anything help this? If you have something in motion, maybe your neurologist has done this with you. If you have hand tremors and you do quick flicks, right? And then suddenly the tremor is at least less so for a while. So again, perhaps using that technique on restless leg, the partner using it on the person who's having restless leg. And I don't know, I haven't actually tried this, but it's worth a try. I think anything that's not going to hurt your partner is worth a try. And I think one of the big concerns is you see that your partner has many different symptoms, from pain to loss of memory to difficulty walking, and you begin to feel that anything that they're delicate and they can be easily wounded. And I'm saying you've lived with this person for years and years. And again, it's got to be consensual. It's got to be discussed, but you can try things. You try little things and then you add on and see where you go with that.
Okay, let's see, nobody has submitted any questions in the chat. And I'm out of questions, so I think that I'm going to just say thank you so much for this evening. I found it very enjoyable, and I hope all of you listening did as well. And just thank you for doing it. It's fascinating.
Great.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.